And I'm so proud to be your colleague, and congratulations once again. So I think it was probably 1984, and I was coaching the Parsippany Hills, and we got to play Randolph in the last game. Ron Standridge gets off the bus, and Bob Fosse gets off the bus as the coach. I don't even know these guys. And then that team got off the bus. And they beat us like 35-42-0, as I expected. And I got a chance to see the quarterback after the game. And decent looking kid, kind of skinny, tall enough, but I don't know what makes him so great. So I got beat by Randolph a couple more years, and so I got to get myself some of that. So in '87, I came to Randolph, and I was introduced to the Randolph way of training in the summertime. And I got into the gym. I didn't see any weights. I saw a universal machine, but I heard ropes humming, and I saw ropes breaking on the floor. And I looked over, and the biggest guy on the team was jumping rope at about 200 beats a minute. And I said, "What's that?" And Coach Fosse said, "That's the quarterback. That's Matt Nardolillo." And I said, "I think we're going to be okay. I think I've come to the right place." So we called him Hordak back then. Nobody remembers that, but I still call him Hordak. They asked me, when did you come to Randolph, Coach? I go, the year of Matt. That's what I say. I came the year of Matt. So without further ado, I would like to bring up Greg Nardolillo to introduce Matthew Nardolillo.
Ann Clifton, you are truly amazing. How about Ann Clifton, everybody? Your presence here tonight is inspirational. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee and how hard it is to do this. I want to thank the class of '68, what you did for Mrs. Bauer. I mean, it breaks my heart. We love her so much. The heart itself, John Bauer, that's his writing on it. For 50 years, you kept that, and to bring it out tonight is awesome. I want to thank Matt Nard for making me his presenter tonight. Thank you, brother. Over the great Danny Girls, by the way. Come on. For those of us who know Randolph football, we know this. It's a winning tradition built on faith, humility, and mental toughness. Our locker room before battle was not boisterous or loud. There were no screams or outbursts. Just calm, confident, burning desire to get out on the field and execute. I think of the Navy SEALs that went together Solomon Lot. That's our locker room. There is no one that personifies the supreme, quiet confidence better than Matt Nardolillo. When you overlay his God-given talents with his superior work ethic, you get the first ever Randolph football player to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That alone blows me away, knowing the story of Randolph. That is remarkable, and I could not be more proud of you, my brother. So let me tell you about my younger brother. My mother gave the nickname Matty the Horse because he galloped on the football field. A local monster from South Jersey also shared the name, Matty the Horse I know. We got a real kick out of that. Slowly morphed into a cartoon character named Evil Hordak, and he has affectionately been called Hordak ever since. Now he's Uncle Hordak. Hordak was the ultimate double threat. He could beat you with his feet and his arm. And in a rare chance the play broke down and knock it out of the pocket, good luck. There was no stopping Matt Nardolillo. Matt began his career as a starting sophomore quarterback in 1985. He has the distinct honor of being the only quarterback in a 40-year span to lose his first 3 games in a row. In their locker room for 3 weeks on the sign, only eyes washed by tears can see clearly. And out of the ashes came a great forest. Matt led his team to win the next 5 to 6 games that year, finishing his season with a winning record of 5-4, thus protecting John Bauer's legacy of 25 consecutive winning seasons. That was a real accomplishment, Matt, and one that I'm most proud of. They had only 2 seniors on the roster that year. After all, Randolph football goals were simple. 3 things. Number 1, beat Roxbury. Number 2, have a winning season. And number 3, win the Iron Hills Conference. The rest, John Bauer taught us, was gravy. Thanksgiving, the gravy was about to be poured. The very next season was 1986. Matt led the Rams to the state championship that year. His season statistics were 113 for 176 passes, throwing 1,775 yards and 17 touchdowns. They had only one loss that year to Seton Hall, 14-13 to 15. After winning the 6 remaining games, the streak was on, finishing the season with a 10-1 record. Matt's senior year, 1987, pure perfection. Matt led the Rams to their first ever undefeated season. His career stats were terrific. 248 for 438 passes, 3,949 yards. Can we call that 4,000? 4,000 yards. 37 touchdown passes, 15 rushing. Consider this. After Matt's first loss, his first 3 losses his sophomore year, he remarkably won 26 out of 28 games. As a fellow quarterback, I can tell you that is not easy. That is the best 28-game record in the school's history. As for those 2 losses, how about this? 1 point each. If those were wins, there'd be 17 more games on top of 59. A remarkable 76 unbeaten games. Aside from the wins and the streak, what's most impressive about Matt is his courage and commitment. We were taught courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. And it is not lost on us that the 1968 team is here, who began that legacy for us. Matt was the first quarterback to commit to Penn State in 1988. With Matt's exceptional speed and ability to throw on the run, the South Carolina Gamecocks came out of nowhere. The run-and-shoot offense was hard to turn down. After another All-State quarterback from New Jersey committed to Penn State, Matt didn't flinch. He courageously honored his commitment to Joe Paterno and the Penn State Nittany Lions. Matt called me at BC from Penn State his freshman year. He said he ran a 4.540 timed electronically. That's really fast. Fast now is fast then. The coaches were considering moving him to receiver to get him on the field. Matt stood his ground and stayed at quarterback, even if it was the number 2 position, beloved by all his teammates. I want to confess to you guys right now, I would have loved to have seen Matt Nardolillo do that run and shoot down South Carolina. It would have been really something. Matt was an All-State quarterback. Now he's an All-State father. He's an All-State husband, All-State brother, All-State son, All-State friend. I love Matt Nardolillo, and it is my honor to introduce to you him as the first ever Randolph Hall of Fame inductee. Thank you.
I don't know how you follow that. The Carnegie courses. And Coach Lyons, you were giving me a heart palpitation when you were talking about that jump rope. I have to admit, when I first got the news that I was being selected to the Randolph Hall of Fame, I had mixed feelings. Those of you who know me probably remember me from my playing days at Randolph High School that my brother went over so elegantly, and the start of the 59-game win streak. But it also stirred up some empty feelings that I still carry around with me today about my experiences at Penn State and maybe not doing what I had planned. But don't worry, we're going to end this all on a positive note. In 1988, our senior class, all the students were asked to write down in your yearbook where you'd be in the year 2000. So back then, that seemed like forever. So I kind of thought about it and I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to be somewhere sunny and warm doing light beer commercials. I had high aspirations. So what was really ironic about that, statement was that in 2000, I was somewhere studying more. I was in Southwest Florida, living there with my wife Heather. I was drinking light beer, but there were no commercials. See, my dream growing up, probably like a lot of scholarship athletes who moved on, was to be an NFL quarterback. And those dreams were never fulfilled. In 1992, my senior season, fifth year, Joe Paterno named Kerry Collins the starting quarterback for the upcoming season. He was a sophomore at the time. If you remember, he wound up becoming the 5th overall pick in the 1995 draft to the Carolina Panthers. So I had some competition. As I was thinking about what to say tonight, I said to myself, you know what, Matt? No one really wants to hear about your personal stories. But then I said, hey, you know what? Growing up, I was the youngest of 4 boys. No one really listened to me what I had to say at the dinner table. And I had to ride in the back of the station wagon to church on Sundays. And to top it off, my brothers made fun of me for playing soccer. They said it was a girl's sport. And they bullied me into playing football my 6th grade year. So I kind of wanted to weave in a short message tonight, not only to the young people, like my kids and my nephews out there that are in the audience, but also to you parents and grandparents that are here. Your playing time will be extremely short in your life, but the lessons that you learn will continue forever. And that's the hard part about being an athlete. At any level, no matter where you are, you just don't want it to end. And I happen to stay in touch with a good friend of mine at Penn State who used to play as an offensive lineman for the New England Patriots. He was in the 1996 Super Bowl, and if you can remember, they lost to Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. He played 8 seasons, but he really missed a real run of the New England Patriots in their Super Bowls in the early 2000s. We were talking the other day, and he said, you know what, Nardo? He goes, man, if my knee would have held up for a few more years, I'd probably have a couple Super Bowl rings on my hand. So the point is, no matter where you are in your life, it always is going to end. So you need to make sure, again, to the parents, grandparents, and kids, enjoy the moments when you are playing, and yes, even practicing too, because the time's short. All right, that's enough about me and my personal story. Let's talk a little bit about the people who got me here and Randolph football. You know, you could probably name a dozen other football players that could take my place tonight. All right, maybe 4 or 5. But in all seriousness, I do want to thank the Randolph Football Hall of Fame Committee for selecting me. It truly is an honor. And this I didn't have written down, but when you think about it, as a player, you're here for 3-4 years, and then you're done. But I think of Ann Clifton, I think of Cliff Back, Ted Leffler. These guys were here for decades, and that's a commitment. That's a real commitment. Mom, thanks for being there. Thanks for being my Uber mom to all those midget football practices. Thank you for being a part of the Friends of Randolph football and a lot of hot chocolate containers. More importantly, thank you for the pregame pasta meals, linguine and clams, with the handful of players that came to our house before Friday nights. Remember those, Tony and Michelle? Dad, thank you always for being at my games, not only in high school, but also in college. Thank you for believing in me when sometimes others did not. I'm glad you and Mom were able to be a part of the streak and spend time with John and Gloria Bauer, so that you can understand why this was such a special time in our lives. My brother Greg, thank you for blazing the path before me to know that it can be done. For those of you who don't know, my brother Greg, who was up here, was a 3-year starting quarterback and safety and received a scholarship at Boston College. This is all why he tore his anterior cruciate ligament his junior year in high school. And that was before tearing your anterior cruciate ligament was, that was before tearing it was in play. Well, now you tear your ACL, you come back, and you're better than ever. But back then, it could have been just a serious, serious problem. But he persevered, he got through it. So thanks, Greg, for leading the way. Larry and Joe, again, thanks again for your insurmountable pressure to switch from soccer to football. And thank you, Larry, for joining me on my official Penn State visit when I was being recruited. That was a good time. My wife, Heather, thank you for always believing in me regardless of our circumstances, and continuing to have faith that the best is still yet to come. I love you. My sons, Matthew and Wes, make sure you continue to do what I say, and not as I do, and don't watch it too closely. I love you guys, and get better every day. He's not here tonight, but some of you know him. Coach Clyde Cogley was my first Mr. Football coach. First day of practice, he said, "Nardolillo, where do you want to play?" I said, "Halfback, coach, I love to run." I said, "Okay." Next night, "Nardolillo, yes, coach, you're going to be a quarterback." "Why is that?" "Well, your brother's a quarterback, Coach Bauer said you're going to be a quarterback." "Okay." I can still remember him bringing me, Andy Sandler, and Steve Soderlin to the YMCA with garbage bags on to make weight. You'll never see that today. Tom Tinnis. Tom, you had a significant impact on the development of the Randolph football midget program for over 30 years, and that's exactly why you're here tonight. Thank you for being a part of my development through the midgets. I truly appreciate it. I think Tom, who's coming up next week, definitely the first one to point out how influential John Bauer Sr. and John Bauer Jr. were to the midget program. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Chauncey Ted Hart. He was the original Bulldog. Ron Standard. Man, when I think of Ron, I just think of nails. Man, you hug that guy, he's still solid as a rock. He's kind of like a Clint Eastwood throwback guy. A tell it like it is kind of guy. Some of my greatest memories playing football were my freshman year. You know, Ron had this ability to motivate me to run through a brick wall. I'll never forget our motto before each game. "Guys," and he had that raspy voice, "Guys, let's go out there and play with reckless abandon." And also, he focused on speed and strength conditioning in the spring. I truly appreciate everything you did, Ron. And I also remember you were a pretty good wrestling coach, too. Ted Leffler. How about this guy? Ageless. I love running into him, especially at the Lexus dealer when our oil changed. Ted, as you know, you've heard his accolades from his son. That was great. Coach Leffler had some interesting old school motivational techniques that I reminded him of last night. Before some of the big meets, we'd go in and eat pizza, drink soda, and watch horror movies. And then we'd go out and actually win the next day. He had an uncanny ability to push us hard, but he knew how to lighten up also. He was truly a player's coach in the very best sense. He kept you right on path. Cliff, I never, you were always around, and I said to myself, what does this guy do? Does he sleep here? I mean, you were here constantly, and you were such a gentleman, and again, you haven't aged a bit. You look great. Thank you. Randolph football, John Bauer Sr., John Bauer Jr. were two men who had a vision, a process, and a commitment to excellence. What they did with Randolph football is equivalent today of what Nick Saban has done for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I don't say that like 4 national championships in 6 years. Although the Bauers didn't start with 5-star recruits who bench pressed 400 pounds and ran the 40 in 4.4 seconds. They started with kids like Danny Buros, who was my modern-day Wes Welker. He stood 5'6", 135 pounds soaking wet, and probably one of the toughest kids pound for pound on the team. When I think of Randolph's success, I can probably break it down into 3 parts. The plan and its founders. The Bauers understood football was 90% mental, 10% physical. They believed that becoming a great football player, you first had to become a great person. So they handed out the 14 characteristics of a Randolph football player. One of those characteristics were blame yourself first for any of your failures. And he said that we live in a society today where everyone likes to blame others for failures. Rise above that to accept responsibility and commit yourself to overcome any failures. You should all have this hung up on a refrigerator. The second part was the physical component. It's pretty funny because I run into people from time to time, former players, and they said, man, you guys were a machine at Randolph. How did you kick our ass so bad back in the day? I usually smile and say something like, yeah, we just really had a good system. But what they really had to know is that we met on May 1st with Coach Bauer, who outlined our plan for the year. On June 1st, we started a grueling circuit workout 3 times a week, and it never got easier. Talk about high-intensity training. John Bauer Jr. was at the forefront of this 30 years ago. July 1st, we started a passing game. It was state-of-the-art. It was, in fact, light years ahead of Penn State. August 1st. Wait, did I forget that they actually gave us 4 days off in July over the July 4th weekend? We began a running program, and it literally felt like you were going to lean over and die. There's some guys here who ran with me who know what that felt like. When you stop and think about it, the Bowers were like blacksmiths forging players like steel swords, for which they first heat to 1,000 degrees in the summer and cool us off by September for the ensuing 11 battles. And this is all the stuff we did before the season. During the season, we got our marching orders, which was a packet, usually from Coach Bauer Jr., which we had to learn all week. But what was really interesting was Coach Bauer Jr. was able to get us all 8th grade study hall. And I think that was because he wanted us to get our homework done early, or did he want to get us up on the field at 1:45? Last, the emotional component. Coach Bauer Sr. would invite us to his home the night before the game. As a sophomore, I was invited for the first time. And since my brothers Joe and Greg both played for Coach Bauer, I called them and said, hey guys, what do you do when you go over to the Bauer's house on the night before the game? They said, watch TV, eat some Cheetos, drink some juice, watch some TV, and hang out. I said, really? Oh yeah. But that's not what we all did. There was a reason behind this. He wanted to strengthen the bond. Usually about 10 minutes as we were there at the house, he'd call you over to the kitchen table, smoking his green cigar, asking Gloria for another Diet Pepsi. He'd look you in the eye and he'd say, so what do you like tomorrow? I'd say, passing, coach. He'd say, it's all pitch and catch. You know, everything was so easy to him. He was the Buddha of football. He really was. He made everything simple, and I always remember him saying this, which I carry today in my life, stop struggling, which we can all learn from, which is just a way to make your life easy. I'd like to thank the Bowers personally. I don't believe John Bauer Jr. is here, but I want to say thank you, John Bauer Jr., for making me do the things I did not want to do to become the player and the person that I wanted to be. Not a week goes by that I don't think about you and your father and the life lessons that were taught up on the hill. And you still have to write the book. Glory Bauer. They say behind every great man is a great woman. Gloria Bauer was not only responsible for the Cheetos and Kool-Aid the night before the games, but do you also know that she was the one responsible for the inspirational handwritten letter that was read by the captains before every game? That was fantastic, and I don't think everybody knows that. When you think about it, it's really incredible. Thank you for all your support, Mrs. Bauer, throughout those years. John Bauer Sr., even though you are not with us here today, I can still hear your voice. I can hear your infectious laugh. You have left us physically, but you have also left us with not only great memories, but life lessons. Not only for me, but for hundreds of players, many coaches throughout your career. Everyone who has ever played for you has truly been blessed, and those players continue to share the bond that can never be broken. Lastly, Coach Bauer and Coach Bauer Jr. always like to hang up quotes in their locker room. And the one that always comes to mind is, which we can all live by, is your success in life will be in direct proportion to your commitment to excellence no matter what you're chosen to be. Thank you again for selecting me to the Randolph Hall of Fame and to the committee. I truly honor it and appreciate it. Thank you very much.